It is Saturday, July 28th, and we're still closely tracking a tropical wave in the central Atlantic. You can see that convection remains limited, and around this time of the evening, each day we've seen a flare-up of convection, and some of this convection is being enhanced by the vertical westerly wind shear that is present, especially over the Caribbean and central Atlantic just to the south of this large and powerful upper-level low. So this upper-level low combined with the dry air is still going to limit tropical development, and we do not foresee any from this wave axis as it continues to parallel the Greater Antilles for the next 4 to 6 days. As you can see from the latest wind shear chart from the University of Wisconsin, we've got the westerly streamlines showing all of that westerly wind shear. So although the convection may increase just a little bit due to a little bit more in the way of upper level divergence, the shear is not going to allow for any organization, and we see that the vorticity is still present, but nothing is overly outstanding. Shifting eastward closer to the African coastline, we see more convection, and there is a weak area of low pressure just to the south of the Cape Verde Islands, but we're still seeing a lot of Saharan air outbreaks, especially between 20 and 40 degrees west longitude, and that is helping to clear things out. And as long as the Saharan air layer remains out here, it's going to be very difficult for any organized areas of low pressure to advance toward the west without dissipating, or at least weakening rather substantially. So far, none of the dynamical models are overly bullish on development over the next 6 to 7 days. At one point yesterday, the GFS was showing long-range development in the main development region, which is to the west of the coast of Africa, but it's rather inconsistent with that outlook, and so far in this run we do not see any signs of development. And as we go into day 7, we see that there are still some sporadic outbursts of Saharan air layer dust that is being spread into the deep tropics, and you've got one high amplitude tropical wave axis near about 40 degrees west longitude, but it's not well organized, and again we've got that dry air outbreak just to the east. So what we really need is a multitude of these tropical waves to really moisten up the atmosphere to the south of 20 degrees north latitude, and until that happens we're just not going to have enough moisture for anything to really organize. So now this is what the GFS has in terms of low-level vorticity, and yes, there are a couple minor disturbances located along the intertropical convergence zone, but anything that far to the south is going to have difficulties in organizing due to the lack of Coriolis, and still just not enough out there to be overly concerned in the Atlantic. But meanwhile, by day 7, much like the European runs we've seen over the last couple of days, it is now starting to develop a tropical disturbance, and that could be the focal point for any tropical action over the next week or so. And here is the latest European run as we move into Sunday and Monday. The tropical wave is spreading over the Lesser Antilles, and by Tuesday it is over San Juan. And as we go into Wednesday through the remainder of the week, it should continue to parallel the Greater Antilles and possibly get into the southern Bahamas, but this is still a very disorganized picture, and we're not seeing any development from this tropical wave in any of the available model guidance this evening. And the same can be said for the rest of the tropics, at least on the Atlantic side, but we're beginning to get rather a good model agreement with the idea that there will be at least a tropical depression or tropical storm immediately to the south of Mexico. If not by the end of the week, then very likely by the start of next weekend, and this will be something that interests along the Mexican Riviera will want to at least keep an eye on. And then finally, as we go into days 9 and 10, we may have a little bit more in the way of tropical action way out in the deep tropical Atlantic, and that may come in the form of a couple stronger tropical waves. Last but not least, this is the latest set of MJO forecasts from the available models that we see here, and it has been a couple of weeks now since the enhancing phase of the MJO has been over the Eastern Pacific and the Atlantic, and there's also been a lot of model disagreement, but we are starting to see a little bit more in the way of consistency with the consensus shifting in the MJO back into phases 8, 1, and possibly 2 as we go into early to mid-August, and 8, 1, and 2 are much more favorable for Western Hemisphere development than, say, with the MJO across 6 and 5, which suggests more of an active pattern across the Southwest and Western Pacific near the South China Sea. So thank you for watching, and we will have another video update at 28storms.com and the Hurricane Tracker app sometime on Sunday.